Welcome to Modern Application Development 2 Screencast. In this screencast, we'll see and learn about origin, cross-origin requests and CORS and how to use them. Now let's start with what's origin. A web content's origin is defined by schema, that is the protocol, which we generally call HTTPS or HTTP. If you click on any URL, it will be in the beginning. This part, that's the protocol. And a host name, which is domain name, which is this one, developer.mozilla.org. It's a subdomain, but it's still a TLD or host name. It could be just mozilla.org too. And then a port. Here it's a default port. Since it's HTTPS, it could be 443. Could be other ports if you are using 8080, 9000, whatever, that port. All of them together is called origin. Now let's see some example like given here. Now this one is a good example. Usually the domain names or the host names is case insensitive. Example with capital E and example with small e, both are same. So these two are same, hence they are called same origin, right? Or they are actually same, because HTTP is by default runs at port 80, so the port matches, the domain name matches, and the schema matches. Let's check this one. Here also the schema matches or the protocol matches, the domain name matches, and the port is 80 in both of them matches. Here it does not match. They're not of the same origin because this is HTTP and this is HTTPS. Let's see this one. This one also don't match. All three are different because one is example.com, another one is www, which is a subdomain of example.com, another one is my app, which is another subdomain of example.com. Now here the protocol matches, domain name also matches, but the port is different. Here the default port is 80 and here the port is 8080. So this is how you say whether they are of same origin or of a different origin, right? Now why does it matter? It matters because we want to control some requests going from one to another. Let's say let's take a website which loads at https://example.com, okay, and then it submits. Let's say there was a form and it submits to similar domain. Let's say okay, let's copy this properly. Let's say the form submission endpoint is user, right? Now there could be a form submission or a request. This is a request. Let's say it's post request or a get request, whatever request. Since they are of same origin, you can see here it's the same schema, same domain, and same host, rather port. Sometimes domain name is also called host, so it's the same host and the same port. These are called same origin requests. So when you get a request here, the origin of the request is from http example.com and hence it's the same origin. Now let's say if it is similar, but let's say instead of actually making a request to this, it's making a request to app dot, or let's say API dot, right, which could be a generic case. Now it's not the same origin because the host name or the domain name changes. This is called cross origin request, right? Because the origin of the request is from example.com, but the destination is api.example.com, which is different. So at this point, when it receives the request, it's not from the same host name or the same origin in together. In this case, different host name. Hence, it's from a different domain or different origin in this case. Hence, it's a cross origin request, right? So a cross origin request is a request where a web page served from one origin, this whole thing is origin, makes a request to resource on a different origin. here the different origin is api.example.com, right? And here is one example. I think we might use in many cases. Sometimes API is hosted on a different page, or app is hosted on a different domain, API is hosted on a different domain, or the protocols could differ, or the ports could differ, things like that. So hence cross origin request comes into picture. Now let's take an example and see how it works in real world. And there are some restrictions for this cross origin, and see where we'll see that kind of restriction and how we will navigate those restrictions, okay? And why sometimes it's important to navigate and why it's sometimes important to not to do that, because it could lead to some security holes, right? Okay, let's go to some example. Here is two apps, app 1 and app 2. Let me just open simple app. You could see that this app name is first app. It is just one home and one echo. Home renders index.html on get, and index.html is just a simple form. I'll show you what the form looks like. It has 3 buttons. I'll show it to you, and they all submit to this echo. Now echo is just a receives the post and picks up name from the request form, and then prints it or returns the same thing. It doesn't actually return using a template, it just returns the text, right? And this app is launched on port 8080, right? And same app, everything is same. It's launched on 1990. One small difference I've made is in this index.html, instead of calling 1990, it is calling as you could see 8080. Now you can see that what is this LH1 app 1. What I've done is, instead of using 127.0.0.1, I've just mapped it to, like, using host file. I just mapped it to a name using local host mapping, right? So you can just see /etc/host file, right? When I access LH app 1, it actually returns localhost. Same thing with LH app 2. I just wanted a different named thing so that you could identify easily without confusion, right? Otherwise we'll have to keep comparing the port number, which sometimes could lead to confusion, especially when you're following a tutorial. Right, now let's go back to here. So let me launch this app and just check whether everything is working, right? Let's go to the terminal. I've already launched it. It's a simple app. I mean, you could relaunch it, but it's running already. So I'll just refresh this, right? I have just one regular call, which is a form submission to echo, then Ajax form call submission to echo, and then this fetch call submission to echo. That's what I said. There are 3 buttons. If you see my index, so it is / which is into the same domain, on name, and just a submit button, so it submits to echo. This is your regular call. Ajax call is actually making an Ajax request, so it calls a function. You can see it asks for a name and then does Ajax post request to submit the form to this URL. And similarly fetch, which is similar to that, similar to Ajax, but standard fetch would create a form, set the name in the form, and submit the form using fetch post method. Right, now let's see, this is in the same domain, submitting to the same domain. I'm just going to open the inspect so that we can see what's happening. So let's say if I do Thejesh and submit, right, it submits, no issues. It's saying app name and hello Thejesh, because that's what we are returning here. Like if you see, printing the app name, which is first app, and then name, which is sent as part of the post, printing that. So it's printing that. You can see here echo is being called. We can see the origin header being set. Origin is LH1 app on 8080, right? Now let's go back, do an Ajax call, right? I'll just going to clear this. When I click Ajax, it will ask for the name. Let's say Thejesh, and then I say okay, made a call. see, you can see here it's printing first app hello Tej, right? Similar to everything is same, other than that it's an Ajax call. You can see here origin is http lh1 underscore app1 8080, right? Now let's do a fetch call, which is somewhat similar, right? Standard fetch. I'll just do Raj, right? Does a fetch call, then prints Raj, same difference, right? So you can see origin is same, right? This is natural, right? There's nothing strange about it. Now this is running. Now we have app2, which is running on 1990. So you can see that this is app1 and this is app2. They are different origins because not only domain name, even the port name is changed, right? Look, if I do this now, in the first case it was like this to echo, right? Now what I want to do is from app2 9090, I want to call the same thing, right? Now, okay, let's copy it properly. Okay, so now it becomes cross origin. Now cross origin brings some restrictions. Usually don't call it restrictions, we call it same origin policy. We'll look at what is same origin policy. Let's go back to Mozilla site and see same origin policy. Same origin policy is a critical security mechanism that restricts how a document or script loaded by one origin can interact with a resource from other origin, right? So basically it's loaded here from one origin, and how it should interact with resource on the other origin. That's policy is managed by same origin policy. This is actually uses a same origin theory that we just looked at, right? And then if it's the same origin, then there are not many restrictions, right? I mean, you can access because you have in the same place and same origin. But when the origin changes, basically, is there a way to change origin? Used to be way to change a document.domain to a new origin, and you could do that's no longer allowed. So there's no point, and it throws an error, right? But anyway, if it's a cross origin network access, which is calling from one to another, usually links, redirects, and form submissions are allowed. Cross origin embedding is allowed. For example, if you want to embed YouTube or some other iframe embedding, that kind of thing is allowed. Cross origin reads are typically disallowed, but read access is often linked by embedding, right? And then there is the biggest restriction comes from whatever is accessed through script. Even the script is allowed to embed from one side to another. What the embedded script can do is kind of restricted. I'll show you. Let's go back to our site. Now let me just show this example. Actually, in this we don't need this, right? We are not going to do anything in the app2 for this, right? Just useless, because we're going to access app once. So I'm just going to stop this and restart. Okay, so there's only one now. It doesn't have its own echo. Anyway, in index you can see that I'm action is this URL, which is of app1 in app2, and then similarly here it's app1 and similarly it's app1, right? So it's all calling the first app. Now let's see what happens if I do make a regular call, right? Just going to open the console, going to open the network, I'm going to call Tej, right? Do a submit. It happens. Now you can see in the URL here, it's already navigated to the other one, right? So it's gone to LH1 app1 8080 echo. Even though we were 90 in the beginning, 9090, it's gone back to app1, right? It has submitted and navigated to that. So that is allowed. So submission has happened. It has got Thejesh. It's done everything, right? Let's check this. So here you can see origin is 9090, right? Even the request URL is 8080. So it's cross origin, of course, but submissions are allowed because usually anything get and posts are allowed. I think you can check here. Yeah, get, head and posts are allowed, right? So we'll see the Ajax request. Now the biggest restriction comes, going to go back to LH underscore app to 1990, right? I'm just going to clear this. The biggest restriction comes when it's not user navigated by made through a script. Usually that shouldn't be allowed. Let's see what it says when I try to make an Ajax call, right? Let's click on Ajax hello. I'll say Thejesh, right? You can see it throws CORS error, CORS error. We usually call CORS, but you know, it shouldn't matter, right? So it's thrown an error. Request URL is LH1 app 8080 and origin is LH app 2 1990, and it's not allowing. You can check error details here in the console, right? So it's saying access to our XML HTTP request at 8080 echo from origin 1990 has been blocked by CORS policy. Now we will look at what is CORS policy. No access control allow origin is header is set. That's a way to add it, but we'll see how to do that again. Now let's see how it happens in a fetch call, similar to our Ajax call. Okay, let's make this request. Let's see. Okay, here is where we are making fetch call. I'm just going to make a fetch call ali. Okay, click on OK. Now let's say here also, like our Ajax call, it throws an error. Now let's see what's the error. Now the error is somewhat similar. Access to fetch at 8080 echo from origin 1990 has been blocked by CORS policy. No access control allow origin header is present. Same error, but there is an extra additional information. If Opaque response serves your needs, set the request mode to no CORS to fetch the resource CORS disabled. I'll tell you what is this Opaque response and when you can use it. So that's the difference between general Ajax call and a fetch call. Now, before we go to fetch, let's say how, if in case this was our API server, this was our front-end server, and we wanted to fix Ajax call, how do we do that? That's done by something called adding a CORS headers. What is CORS? Now CORS is CORS, which is cross origin resource sharing. It's a way of telling by using headers that we are going to share some resources across origin, right? So like for example, I'm going to the 8080 is going to say it's okay for me to receive a request from 1990, right? Or different domain. It could be any other domain, right? Like I could say api.example.com. So usually we do that by saying access control allow origin. It's a header. We can set it to any domain name or a host name, or rather origin name, or you can set it to star where we'll allow everything. But we generally don't prefer setting star because it's we don't want anyone or everyone to submit the request. We want only few people to submit the request. So if it's outside our origin and we want that person or that machine to submit the request, or that origin to submit the request, then we'll use this header. And so we could have, like here it's written, we could put star, but we rather put like a actual origin. Like in our case, we actually put whatever LH underscore app to 1990. You could manually set this, origin here in this thing, but we could use simple ways of using a flask add-on. So I've installed already something called flask CORS. We could use that. So that's done by just generally adding a couple of lines. Let's show you the site. Okay, it's not here. Let's search for it. Okay, this is the one. You can install it and you can enable CORS for the whole thing, but like this. But we don't want to do it for the whole all of the resources. We want to enable it only for specific one. So we are going to use this and also control it to specific origin from where it has to come, not for all origins, right? So let's do this. Let's import this. Okay, here, and then we can just add CORS to app, right? And then we want to add it only for this, so we are not going to do this for everything. We're going to do it only for this. Here for echo, and we also want to restrict to some origins and not all of them, right? We want to receive only from 1990, not from some random thing, right? So we'll just do that part. We'll just add the origins, right? You can just give a list of origins or specific origin or comma separated one or star. We could actually give star here, but I don't want to give star. I just want to give very specific one, right? Now if I restart this, and let's restart both. Now let's go to let's just make sure it's running. Oh, it's not running. Name cross origin. Okay, I think I'm not just enabled the environment. Let me just enable the environment. Oh, so I'm using it here. I've not imported, so that's the problem. Okay, it's running. This is also running. Okay, now let's just refresh this. Okay, refresh this. Okay, now let's check network and make an Ajax call. Okay, now I'm going to send Ali. Still throwing an error, right? Because it's 1990. Let's say what's the headers. Okay, it says strict origin when cross origin. It says, let's check what are we setting. 1991 I have written. It's actually 1990, right? So that's the error, because again it's not matching, right? Okay, so let's restart this. Okay, restarting this. Okay, now let's make a call again, right? Li. There you go. Like magic, it worked across the domains now, right? Across the origins rather. Okay, it's making like the policy is strict origin when cross origin, because we are given specific domain name. Otherwise everything else is going well, right? It's all fine. Okay, now that's done. That's solved. But fetch also should work now without any problem. Let's see whether it works. right? There you go, it worked, right? Fetch doesn't have any issues. In case you want to really stop it from working, right? In case that was a need, even the course is enabled and you wanted to stop it, you can set up the mode. You know, you can set up the mode as no course, and then whether you want to pass the credentials. Currently, there's no cookies involved, so we don't need to send. There is a mode, and we can set it as no course. Now there is a slight thing here. Like I said, we could also have a way to do like a cross origin call from fetch if we want to make an opaque request. Now, what's an opaque request? Opaque request is a request where you can make a request. The request goes to the server and server responds, but the JavaScript on this side won't be able to receive that response, thinking there could be secrets or there could be something private in the response. So it can make a request, but it can't read the response. That's what is called an opaque request, and fetch can do that. Now we can, like for example, here it's a transparent request, right? Like I'm making a call and I'm getting the response, right? All going well, right? Now let's see if I have to make an opaque request. I'm going to stop this, stop both of this. We'll set this back to what it used to be. I'm just going to mask this, right? Restart app 1. Okay, and app 2 will also, I don't want to do any changes. I'm going to remove this. All right, okay, let's stop this, restart, stop this, restart. Okay, make a fetch. Hello, hi, Raj. So you can see, so it has a course error, but it says if opaque response serves your need, use the request mode no course to fetch the course disabled. Users with course disabled. Now we'll see what is mode of fetch. For that we'll go to fetch's documentation, right? Let's go to fetch API MDN. Okay, I think it might be in the request because we are going to make a request, right? So there'll be a mode here. Okay, so mode has 3 or 4 values. One is same origin, no course, and course. These are important for us other than the rest too. Same origin will tell if the request is made to another origin with this mode set, it will result in an error. Usually it will just to enforce it's the same origin. And then no course prevents the method from being anything other than head, get, or post, which means it allows head, get, and post, but it allows only opaque request. I'll show you what is opaque request. And then there is course, allows cross origin requests. For example, access it is without third-party vendors. When the course is enabled, you can use course, right? Because these are expected to adhere to course protocol. Now the most interesting part is no course. No course can do a request, but only opaque request. So let's try that. Okay, here this is the one. I've set it as no course, and which is what this also says, right? If opaque response serves your needs, set the request mode to no course. I've set that. Now I'll just refresh this, just double checking what we set is here. No, I think it did not. Let's see whether we have saved it. Okay, I've saved it, started it. It's there now. Okay, sometimes it doesn't refresh well, so that's why I'm starting and stopping the server. Okay, so now if I go to network, I'm just going to clear this, and if I make a fetch hello, let's see hello, rather give a name, Rani, right? Oh, you can see that there's no response. The response is empty, but there's no error. You got 200 status, right? It went through. The whole request has gone through. So if I check here, it's gone 200. Everything has gone through. There is request, response. It's shown here for the debug purpose, but in the JavaScript, we are not able to get response. That's called an opaque request, right? Where the JavaScript can't access the response back, but it can still make a call, right? So sometimes if you just want to do something and don't care about the responses, you can use a opaque request, especially if the CORS is not enabled. If CORS is enabled, we can just do CORS and use it, or you don't need to give it. If the CORS is enabled, like we saw before, it can work. Now, like I said, CORS is an exception that we are adding, additionally saying, allow this request from this origin, right? We shouldn't do it, irresponsibly. Should do it only when it's required. Only because, there's a good chance that, somebody misuses this to do what we call cross-site request hijacking or request forging, right? CSRF. We can read that CSRF cross. Okay, not this actually. Let me just open a good site. This cross-site request forgery. Cross-site request forgery is an attack that forces an end user to execute unwanted action on a web application in which they are currently authenticated. Let's say you're logged into this app one, right? You're already logged in, and there is a delete form here. And this app 2, tries to call that function even without knowing, without actually logging in, right? Because this doesn't have to log in. This is already logged in. So it makes a submission, or when it makes things like that, it actually deletes it here. So that there could always be a threat. Now, if you actually used, put or delete nouns, HTTP nouns, then it wouldn't happen because it won't allow it. It will only allow get or post. But even sometimes get or post also you don't want them to do. Then you might have to add additional CSRF, protection capabilities. We'll look into some of them. But in general, avoid actually making a calls across origins unless it's required, and don't open up for everyone in the world. Open it up to only few origins which you want to allow, or if it's your own, or your own clients whom you want to allow, right? So especially when you're using cookie based login, because when you do a submission or a get, cookie automatically goes. Now there are ways to stop that also. We could use something called samesite cookies and stuff. We'll look into that in detail in the next round. Also, there are ways to stop cross-site request forgery by using something called CSRF token, which is also supported in Flask, if you use one of the Flask modules to actually create the forms. Now I will leave that to you to explore. Basically what it does is it creates a token every time you want to create a form, so that everything looks new, because it has to get, when it gets the form, it also gets the token. So the third party site can't directly just do submission without actually getting first this site getting loaded and then doing that and then submitting, etc, etc. It's all of it is handled by, if you use Flask WTF forms, it actually handles CSRF directly. Now, CSRF protection is required in most cases if you're using cookie-based login, especially. But otherwise, too, it's important to have that, to stop some other site submitting the request or forging the request. And now, the last one is same site. Similar to same origin, there's also a concept called same site. It's a little more complicated. In same origin, let me go back to in same origin we would compare schema, domain, and port, right? In same site, that is origin. This whole thing is called origin, right? This is origin. But site is kind of loosely defined, mostly sometimes called as registerable domain. Okay, the domain that can be registerable. In this case, it will be LH1 app1, right? This is the site. Now, for example, if you take, let's say, example.com and www.example.com, these are different origin, but they're same site because the registerable domain here is example.com. Here also example.com. It kind of ignores a subdomain unless subdomains are registerable. Now, how do you determine that? It's a little complex and it's browser dependent, and there are ways to do it. What we could check is start. So you can look at the URL spec, like the live document here. Here you can read it. If the host is not, if you have to find the public suffix, in this case you can see that it was example.com is the public suffix. So here, and here also public suffix is example.com, hence, so here you can see host input com, public suffix is com, is the registerable. There's no registerable domain here. Here host input is example.com, public suffix is .com because that's the public suffix. All the public suffixes are listed in a file. You can check it here. Right here, all the public suffixes are there. So ignoring the public suffix, whatever we get, that's what usually we call registerable domain. Here, www.example.com, com is a public suffix and example.com is a registerable domain. Same way, like I said, any other subdomains on example.com, same thing. Ignore the case, same thing. Here is a small change. github.io github.io is a public suffix. So that's the change here, and hence what wg is actually becomes what wg.github.io is actually a registerable domain, and that's the site. So basically, if you think about it, on github.io, if there is a github.io and this xxx github.io, they're all, let's say this x.github.io, those are different sites altogether. But in example.com, they are same site. That's because github.io is a common suffix. Here .com is a common suffix, and hence that's why it kind of very difficult sometimes by looking at the thing domain or the whole ETLD to look at it and say whether it's actually same site or not. You might want to access this public suffix.org's list to look into that. Now, where do we use same site? Same site is used when actually setting up and sending the cookies. as you would know, we used cookies for logging in one of our previous session, but when they're actually setting up the cookies, you can set it up to set up for the same site or shared across sites, right? Like for example, cross site cookies can be allowed, but it's insecure. So most of the time when we to set up the cookies, we would like to set up the same site cookies. We can easily check that. For example, let's go back to our app. If I set a cookie here, and we can read a cookie here and see what happens. Let's check that. Okay, just give me a second. Let's set a cookie here. Okay, I'm setting a cookie called app name cookie, right? App name is first cookie, right? And whenever there's a get, or actually when we're doing echo, I'm trying to get it. I'm just going to print it as well, right? Okay, let's stop this, and first we'll look into just same site. Okay, here, inspect. Now since I refreshed this, the cookie should be set, right? Let's go to application, cookies, here, cookies set, right? And you can see that there is HTTP only and same site flag. I've not enabled it, right? It's a session cookie and it's set for this domain, right? Now actually when I do let's say Thejesh, you can see that its cookie has been submitted and you get the cookie name too, right? Now let's see what happens if you submit it from here. I'm just going to refresh this. Okay, 1990, it's not started. Okay, now I'm going to inspect here. Just going to open the network. Just going to say the hello and submit. So you can see here app.name.cookie is equal to none, hello Thejesh, and you can see there's no cookie, right? That's because even when we actually did a submission, it's across site, right? It's a different site. Here it's LH app 1, here it's LH actually came from LH app 2 to LH app 1, right? Like we submitted from here, right? Can do it again. So it's a different site, and when we did the submit, it went to this. So it's a cross site, not cross origin. Here it's a cross site, and hence it was null. So you can also look at other details here. What it means. What if the cookie has been sent, it will actually send the details of the cookie. It's not showing it here because it's not been sent. And when actually if you look at here in the first one with what we did, you can actually check the cookie here, right? It's been set, and it's been sent as well. Actually when you do the submission, you can see the cookie has been sent in the request, right? It's been sent along with the thing, right? But here there is no cookie sent because it's across the site, right? If it was the same site, it would have been sent. Now you can send it across the different site, but usually we don't want to send it, right? Because it could be dangerous to do that, because then you will auto log in, right? Now here it restricts. If you're already logged in and the cookie has been set here, then even though we are trying to submit from here, since the cookie is not set, it could fail because it will be it'll say session invalid or something like that. Here we are not doing that, but if we check for a cookie and cookie is valid and all the validation, then it will say session invalid and won't do the submission. So that way, cross-site forgery kind of gets stopped if you actually do the cookie settings. Now we've not done anything special, but how come it got still stopped? Let's say same site cookie settings. What are the default values? Let's see what are the default values here. Here you can when you are setting the cookie, you can actually do 3 values. Either you can do lax, or you can do strict, or you can do none. Lax is the one probably everyone uses most. Cookies are not sent on normal cross-site requests, right? It's not normally sent, but are sent when the user is navigating from origin to other site. For example, if you have a link, if you had a link instead of submission, if you had a link and if it had gone to app 1, then it would have, right? That's lax. Lax is replaced by none as a default value in order to ensure users have reasonably robust defense against the classes of cross-site request forgery. Lax is replaced the none. Once upon a time it used to be none. Now it is actually lax, which means here when I actually submit the set the cookie, I don't need to give anything. By default it will be lax, which means for it allows only same site by default. Now strict means always same site, right? None means it can do cross site too. We usually don't want to do none. As much as possible we don't want to do none. Lax is fine. If you really want to control it, you can make it strict. You don't want to do none at all. Now there is another attribute called security or secure. If you mark it as secure, then it needs to be HTTPS. It can't work with a HTTP. Since we are working on HTTP, I have not set it up, right? You can also set it up to secure. If you do it to secure, only if HTTPS, only if the submission server is HTTPS, it kind of submits. Otherwise, it won't. You can see here a secure cookie is sent only to the server with an encrypted request over HTTPS protocol. There is another one called HTTP only cookie. Now, okay, let's see what is that attribute sending. HTTP only cookie. You can look at this detail also. It's an additional flag in set cookie HTTP responder. Using HTTP only flag when generating a cookie helps mitigate the risk of client-side script accessing the protected cookie, which means the JavaScript can't access cookie. Usually you could access cookies using JavaScript as well, but if you set it up as HTTP only cookie, it auto submits and things. The JavaScript can't change the cookie contents or read the contents or anything like that. And that's why you need HTTP only cookie. Now in our case, in most of the cases, all the cookie settings are handled by our, we use the security flask login, flask security. It's handled by them. You don't have to worry much in case of cookie settings and cookie cross-site things, or cookie security or the same site settings, etc., because that handles everything. But I think it's important to know how it is handled, right? So cookies and cookies are handled at the site level, which uses the site and same site logic, and requests are at the origin level, which uses origin and same origin thing, right? And if you want an exception for that limiting origin, you add CORS, right? Where you add you make a small change to the policy by saying please allow this origin too. That is CORS. And you might use CORS because we sometimes run applications on different origins and want to access APIs or requests from resources from the other server. So you might use CORS often, but use use with the restriction and use with extreme care. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching.